What's going on, everybody? Welcome into a new edition Wishbone Shotgun Podcast, sponsored by the Dig Out of Millwood here on the Sports Insanity Network. I am Mike Rifkin. Hope everybody is doing well. We are doing this recording on April 26th, 2025. And on today's show, we will be doing NFL Draft Recap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each team's draft, give my thoughts on it, picks I like, picks I don't like, go on. And at the end, I'll give my top 3, 4, 5 drafts, see how many I truly love. And then the 3 to 5 ones that I really didn't love. But I'll grade them all and we'll go from there. That'll be this whole episode. So I have the list from NFL.com. I'm not going to go division by division. I'm just going to go straight down team wise. And we start with the Arizona Cardinals. They had the number 3 overall pick on Thursday night in the first round. They took Jeremiah Love, running back from Notre Dame. I did have a pretty good rant on that. If you want to check out that rant, I'll probably duplicate it in a minute, but it'll be on the live. It was on the live stream we did Thursday for the top half of the first round of the draft. So Jeremiah Love went 3. At the top of the second round, they took guard Chase Bisontis from Texas A&M. In the third round, they took Carson Beck, the quarterback from Miami. Number 4, they took Caleb Proctor, the defensive tackle from Southeastern Louisiana. In the fifth round, they took Reggie Virgil, a receiver from Texas Tech. Sixth round, they took Carson Shahar, linebacker from Iowa. And in the seventh round, they took tackle Jaden Williams out of Mississippi. Okay, so let's start with the Cardinals and get into how I feel. They take Jeremiah Love with the number 3 overall pick, and I don't like it. I don't like it. I understand why they did it. He's the best player available. In my opinion, if I was the Cardinals, I would have traded out of the pick. And again, I don't know if they had good offers or not to trade out of the pick. But there were so many other needs to take a running back that high. I don't love the idea. So, honestly, if that's the route they wanted to go, that's on them. But to me, I don't love Jeremiah Love is a very good player. But you already have James Conner under contract. And I believe he just signed an extension. And you just signed Tyler Algier this offseason. So now all of a sudden you're going to carry 3 running backs who, yeah, Jeremiah Love is way more gifted than the other 2, but they're all bigger backs. I didn't love the pick. Everyone else does. I'm not sold on it. They get a couple of offensive linemen, which definitely needed work. I like the Carson Beck idea. But again, I would have traded down from 3. So, all in all, I think the Cardinals did an okay job. Would like to see them hit the trenches a little bit more based on the division they're in, but, they don't. I'm going to give the Cardinals, I'll give them a solid B+. I just don't love the Love pick. I understand it. It's just not my favorite pick. Then we move on to the Atlanta Falcons, who did not have a first-round pick back this year from moving back in last year to draft James Pearson. You can look up in his story after you listen to this. So the Falcons draft this in the second round. They took Avion Terrell, corner from Clemson, brother of current Falcon cornerback AJ Terrell. In the third round, they took Zachariah Branch, receiver from Georgia. Fourth round, Kendall Daniels, linebacker, Oklahoma. Sixth round, Ontario Thompson, a defensive tackle from Washington. Sixth round, and this could be a steal. Harold Perkins Jr., a linebacker from LSU, and I'll get into that in a minute. And in the seventh round, they took Ethan Onianwa, an offensive tackle from Ohio State. I love the Perkins pick because Harold Perkins proved a couple of things at LSU. He's an elite pass rusher. And when he has the motor going, he's really good. This could be a steal in the sixth round for the Falcons, especially knowing the James Pierce situation where there's probably going to be some supplemental discipline here from the NFL. This could be a very big get for them, and it could be a sixth round steal. Avion Terrell is a very good corner, and in a division where the Saints and Panthers bulking up a little bit offensively in the box. And then Zachariah Branch could be a home run hitter for them. And that's a really good pick, especially after losing Darnell Mooney in free agency. I thought the Falcons did a really good job. They didn't have a ton of picks. They did well enough with them. I'm going to go B. I'm going to go solid B for the Falcons. Baltimore Ravens. Okay. I'm going to start by saying this. I love the Ravens draft. They did so well in this draft. They start in the first round. They take the guard from Penn State. I'm not going to try to pronounce the name again. I butchered it so many times. But then the second round, they get Zion Young, the edge from Missouri. They doubled up on receiver in the third and fourth round with Jacoby Lane and Elijah Surratt. So it makes you think DeAndre Hopkins is not coming back. But they added some size and athleticism to the receiver room. They had Matthew Hibner, the tight end from SMU, Chandler Rivers, the corner from Duke, who's a really good player, Josh Cuevas, the tight end from Alabama, Adam Randall. Don't sleep on Adam Randall, the running back from Clemson. Big, long body, very lean, might be a force behind Derrick Henry. Then they get Ryan Eckley, the punter from Michigan State, Rayshawn Benny, the defensive lineman from Michigan, and they closed out with Evan Beardson from Northwestern. And his name has beer in it, so it's a great pick. But that top six, even seven, because Cuevas can have a role in the passing game. But the guard from Penn State after you lose Linderbaum, then Zion Young, then Lane and Surratt back to back. I love it. I absolutely love what the Ravens did. I'm giving the Ravens an A. I feel like I give the Ravens an A every year for their draft. All right, the Bills. Team just kept moving down and down and down. They also didn't wound up with no first round pick. So they had two in the second, 3/4, 2/5, 3/7. They went edge, TJ Parker from Clemson, Davidson, Agabinson, the corner from Ohio State, Jude Bowery from BC, an offensive lineman, Skylar Bell, the receiver from UConn, Caleb Alarms, or the linebacker for TCU, Jalen Kilgore, safety from South Carolina, Zane Durant, defensive tackle, Penn State, Toriano Pride Jr., corner out of Missouri, Tommy Doman Jr., punter from Florida, and Armaj Reed Adams, a guard from Texas A&M. TJ Parker's a guy I really like. The last couple of years, the Bills' pass rush. We can talk about the rise of some of their younger pass rushers, but they've gone into free agency and tried to hit home run guys like Von Miller and Joey Bosa. It just didn't work. TJ Parker could work. He's very quick. He's got some work to do, but he's very athletic, and that is something to work with, especially where Jim Leonard comes from with the Denver Broncos. Um, the Bowery pick, bulk up the line. Skylar Bell's going to be a star. Could be a star for this team. He could be really good. Could be Khalil Shakir Jr. And then Jalen Kilgore was one of my favorite safeties in this draft. Uh, he's much better than a lot of what they have on the roster now. And alarms, or that just seems like Matt Milano's future replacement. So I'm gonna give the Bills this. I'll go B plus because I just don't understand the whole trading down aspect. But you know what? They did well with what they got. I'll give them B plus. Carolina, Monroe Freeling, the offensive tackle from Georgia. Lee Hunter, defensive tackle from Texas Tech. Chris Brazel, receiver from Tennessee. Will Lee, corner from Texas A&M. Sam Hecht, the Kansas State center. Zaki Wheatley, a safety from Penn State. And Jackson Kuwatch, linebacker from Miami, Ohio. So, two real positions of need. That was the offensive line. And they bulk up with Monroe Freeling and Sam Hecht. Lee Hunter gives them some bulk on the interior next to Derek Brown. Will Lee, good corner. Chris Brazel. A lot of potential there, but the thing, there is something that worries me about certain Tennessee receivers because I always think about Jalen Hyatt. Carolina's another one. They drafted really well. I'll give them an. You know what? You know what? No, I'll give Buffalo the. I'll give them both A's. All right, the Bears. Uh, they had 2/3, so we'll go through that. They took Dylan Theineman, the safety from Oregon, in the first round. Logan Jones, the center from Iowa, in the second. Sam Roush, the tight end from Stanford, in the third. Xavier Thomas, the receiver from LSU, also in the third. Malik Muhammad, corner from Texas, in the fourth. Kayshawn Elliott, linebacker, Arizona State, and Jordan Vanderberg, a defensive tackle, in the sixth. Theineman's a player. I low key love that one for the Bears. Logan Jones, Drew Dahlman retired, so now you get some center competition between Logan Jones, Garrett Bradbury. I don't love Xavier Thomas. I still think there's a lot to uncover there. But Xavier Thomas is somebody who maybe not right away, but eventually he is going to be a player for the Bears, a big player for the Bears. As with Malik Muhammad. I'm going to give the Bears a solid B. Would have liked to see a little bit more on the line. The Bengals, they didn't have a first round pick because of the trade for Dexter Lawrence. So the second round, they take Cassius Howell, an edge from Texas A&M. Third round, Takario Davis, corner from Washington. Then it went Connor Lew, center from Auburn. Colby Young, Georgia receiver. Brian Parker, offensive lineman from Duke. Jack Endries, tight end Texas. And Landon Robinson, a DT from Navy. I like where the Bengals went for the most part. They wanted to get bigger up front, put Cassius Howell across from his former teammate Shamar Stewart after losing Trey Hendrickson. They've needed corners forever, so the Davis pick is fine. And then protecting Joe Burrow should have been another priority, and they attacked it. Did well. I'll give the Bengals solid B plus. The Cleveland Browns. This, along with Baltimore, might be one of my favorites of this whole thing. Spencer Fano at 9, the offensive lineman from Utah. Casey Concepcion, the receiver from A&M. And then in round 2 to pick up these two players, Denzel Boston, the receiver from Washington at 39, and Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, the safety from Toledo. That's just thievery for Andrew Berry. Third round, they take Austin Barber, a tackle from Florida, and Parker Brailsford, Alabama center in the fifth round. They also take Justin Jefferson, not that one, the linebacker from Alabama, fifth round, and Joe Royer, tight end from Cincinnati. Sixth round, Taylor Green, the Arkansas quarterback, and the seventh round, Carson Ryan, the tight end from BYU. This is an A. This is an A. They bulked up the line with good players. They got two very good receivers. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren at 58 should just be an A on its own. They did a really good job. They got a lot of value for these picks. Even if you like Boston over Concepcion, you plug them in with Jerry Jeudy. Now we need to just figure out who the quarterback is in Cleveland. Is it Shedeur? Is it Deshaun Watson? Or is it to be determined in next year's draft? But they gave Todd Monken weapons, and they gave him an offensive line. Okay, Cowboys. They had two first round picks. At 11, they took Caleb Downs, the safety from Ohio State. They moved up one spot to get him. At 23, where they traded down Malachi Lawrence, the edge from UCF. They also took Jayshon Barham, edge from Michigan. Drew Shelton, the offensive lineman from Penn State. Devin Moore, corner from Florida. LT Overton, Alabama lineman, defensive lineman. And Anthony Smith, a receiver from East Carolina. I'll tell you this, Downs was my favorite player in this draft. And the Cowboys caught a break when he fell into their laps. They move up one spot, make sure they get him. But if they hit on the three edge guys, Lawrence, Barham, and Overton, look out. Lawrence is still raw, but he's got a lot of upside. Barham is a more polished guy, physical at the point of attack. Overton, same thing, physical. They're going to get after it. And they got Christian Parker, or Parks, the new defensive coordinator. They brought him over from Philly. What did Philly have an abundance of? Pass rushers. That's the idea here for the Dallas Cowboys. And they did a good job working that. I'm going to give them a B plus. But if they can hit on all three of those edge guys, look out. All right, Denver. They now have picked to the third round. They took Tyler Oniedem, a defensive tackle from Texas A&M. Fourth round, Jonah Coleman, from running back from Washington, who's a lot like their current running back, J.K. Dobbins. They also got Cage Casey, Boise State guard. And then it went Justin Jolly, the tight end from NC State. Miles Scott, a safety from Illinois. Dallin Bentley, the tight end from Utah. Red Murdoch, linebacker Buffalo, who was Mr. Irrelevant. So don't forget they also added Jalen Waddle. Listen, I like what they did. Again, more physical. Jolly could be a really good player at tight end. That's a guy to watch out for in this class. If he could become something, if they utilize him, look out. But I'll give Denver solid B plus. Don't forget their first round pick is Jalen Waddle. So, all right, Detroit. Blake Miller, offensive line from Clemson. Derek Moore, edge from Michigan. Jimmy Rolder, a linebacker from Michigan. Keith Abney, corner from Arizona State. Kendrick Law, receiver from Kentucky. Skylar Gill Howard, defensive tackle, Texas Tech. And Ty West, a defensive tackle from Tennessee, is the Lions draft. Listen. I love what the Lions did. They wanted to get more physical. They lost a couple of offensive linemen, so they hit the offensive line with Blake Miller. They went to Michigan for their next two. And then Keith Abney in the fifth round might be another steal. This was a guy who a lot of people had second, third round grades on, and you grab him in the fifth, that's great value. The Lions have to get back to what they were a couple of years ago, which was we're going to run the ball down your throat and punch you in the mouth. They can get back to that. They don't have David Montgomery, but they can get back to that. So I'll give the Lions solid A. All right, the Packers. They didn't have a first round pick. Remember that one for Micah Parsons. Not a ton of picks, but they went Brandon Siss, a corner from South Carolina. Chris McClellan, D tackle, Missouri. Danny Dennis Sutton, an edge from Penn State. Jager Burton, Kentucky center. Damani Jackson, a corner from Alabama. And kicker Trey Smack out of Florida. So they kind of just went with best player available at need. Two corners, an edge guy, defensive tackle. I'll give the Packers a B. You can't really get mad with what they did. Houston. They started off with Keelan Rutledge, the offensive guard from Georgia Tech. This was a steal. Caden McDonald at 36 from Ohio State's defensive tackle. That defense. Whew. Then they went Marlon Klein, tight end, Michigan. Fabechi Inawu, the offensive guard from Oklahoma. Wade Woodaz from Clemson, linebacker. Kamari Ramsey, safety, USC. Lewis Bond, receiver, out of BC. And Aiden Fisher, a linebacker out of Indiana. But if they can hit on McDonald, Ramsey, Woodaz, because Aziz Al-Shahir, Aziz Shahir is a free agent after the year. And Kamari Ramsey can play. This is a really good draft. This is a football team that wants to be physical and continue to be physical. I like what Houston did. I'm going to go B+. Indianapolis. This was another one of my favorites, to be honest with you. They got a lot more physical. CJ Allen, the linebacker from Georgia. He replaces Zaire Franklin, who went to Green Bay. Then it's A.J. Halsey, the safety from LSU. Jalen Farmer, Kentucky guard. Bryce Betcher, the linebacker from Oregon. Maybe not loving where they took him, but that's a good player. Then George Gums Jr., an edge from Florida. Caden Curry, an edge from Ohio State. Seth McGowan, Kentucky running back. And Deion Burks, receiver from Oklahoma. Yeah, I love what the Colts did. I became a way more physical football team in a division where they're going to have to be exactly that. With what Jacksonville's becoming, what Houston already is, and what Robert Saleh hopes to build in Tennessee, the Colts need to get more physical, and they did, especially on defense. Speaking of the AFC South, then it's the Jags. No first-round pick. They traded that for Travis Hunter last year. They took Nate Boerkircher, tight end from Texas A&M. Defensive tackle Albert Regis, also from Texas A&M. Then they took guard Emmanuel Pregnon from Oregon. Jalen Husky, the Maryland safety. Wesley Williams, an edge from Duke. Tanner Kozel, tight end Houston. Josh Cameron, receiver from Baylor. C.J. Williams, receiver Stanford. Zach Dufree, edge Washington. Parker Hughes, linebacker from Middle Tennessee. Pregno's my favorite pick here. Offensive lineman, Oregon. He was a really good player at Oregon. It seemed like some of these other guys were reaches, where the Jags were. But maybe Liam Cohen's got a plan. I don't know. I'm gonna give the Jags a C. I don't love it. We'll see what it looks like, but I just don't love it. All right, the Kansas City Chiefs, who were picking at 9, decided to move up to 6 and ruin my day. They took Mansour Delane, the corner from LSU. They also took Peter Woods, the DT from Clemson. That was the trade for Trent McDuffie. Then they took R. Mason Thomas, the edge from Oklahoma. Jadon Kennedy, Oregon corner. Then they took Emmett Johnson, running back, Nebraska. Cyrus Allen, Cincinnati receiver. And in the 7th round, Garrett Nussmeier, the LSU QB. I thoroughly loved what the Chiefs did. Everything that needed to be had, they got. Mansour Delane is going to man. He was great in college. He is going to man that probably number 1 corner spot that was occupied by Trent McDuffie. Ironically enough, that was the comp. But Delane's a play. Peter Woods. Putting Peter Woods next to Chris Jones might just be unfair. And then you get R. Mason Thomas off the edge opposite Carl Loftus. I listen. Kansas City's probably not going to be up near the top again. They took advantage here. They really did. And the happiest person outside of Patrick Mahomes has got to be Steve Spagnuolo. All the work that defense got. Staying in the AFC West, the Raiders. They took somebody named Fernando Mendoza, number 1 overall. Quarterback Indiana. They took Traden Stukes in the 2nd round. Kerryon Crawford, an edge from Auburn. And Trey Zune, the 3rd from a guard from A&M. Here's the steal of the draft. If Jermon McCoy's healthy, and there were issues with that knee when people were discussing during the draft, that might be an issue. But if he's healthy, the Raiders got a steal at 101. 4th round, they also took Mike Washington, running back from Arkansas. They also took Dalton Johnson, safety Arizona. Hezekiah Masses, corner from Cal. Malik Benson, a receiver from Oregon. And Brandon Cleveland, a defensive tackle from NC State. Benson might be a guy who starts returning punts for them. And if they can hit, obviously Mendoza's the key to everything. But if they can get something out of Jermon McCoy and Malik Benson, this might be a really good class for the Raiders. And it could be the class that turns them around. I'm going to give them an A. All right, the Chargers. They got Akeem Mesidor in the 1st round, followed by Jake Slaughter, a guard from Florida. Brennan Thompson, a receiver from Mississippi State. Then I went Travis Burke, offensive lineman from Memphis. Genesis Smith, a safety, Arizona. Nick Barrett, DT, South Carolina. Logan Taylor, a guard from BC. And Alex Harkey, a guard from Oregon. They hit their big need. That was the line, the offensive line. Protecting Justin Herbert is the biggest key for the Chargers. I still don't know if they have a number 1 receiver. I still think they're holding out hope it's Quentin Johnston or Ladd McConkey. But Brennan Thompson now gives them another guy who could give them some yak. Genesis Smith, you put him next to Derwin James. That's going to be a physical safety duo. I like what the Chargers did here. And Brennan Thompson might be a perfect fit for a Mike McDaniel system. So we'll see what happens there. But I'll give the Chargers a solid B plus. I like what they did. Okay, the Rams. Pick everyone's going nuts about, which I'll get into in a minute. Ty Simpson, the quarterback from Alabama, followed by Max Clare, the tight end from Ohio State. Keegan Trost, the Missouri offensive tackle. C.J. Daniels, a receiver from Miami. And Tim Keenan, defensive tackle, Alabama. Okay, the Ty Simpson debate to me is one of the stupider ones we were talking about. Now, if you listen to the uh, mock draft show I did with the old ops guy, the issue for me with Ty Simpson, and I don't love Ty Simpson, was I didn't want him going to a team where he starts right away. And that was my argument against him going to a place like Pittsburgh, even though I mocked him to Pittsburgh because the Steelers refused to do anything. But we'll get into the Steelers in a bit. This is a perfect spot for him. He gets to sit and learn behind Matthew Stafford. Excuse me. That is important, and he gets to learn from Stafford, learn from McVay. This is perfect for what Ty Simpson needed. Instead of him being thrown out to the Wolves, this is a great pick by the Rams. And by the way, they don't have to use more capital on him. They didn't have to trade back into the first round. They didn't wait because they didn't have a pick from 13 to 61. So they said, okay, we're going to take him here. Now, would I have taken maybe Mekhi Lemon instead? Yes. But I understand that you have to think about life after Matthew Stafford. It's a great thought process from less needed Sean McVay. I love it. Then they go Max Clare, another tight end. They have a bunch of them. If they can get Tim Keenan, might be the key to this thing. If they get Tim Keenan to play really good football, and there were times at Alabama he was really good. Oh boy, this Ram defense got better. All right, the Dolphins. A lot of picks. Caden Proctor at 12, the Alabama offensive lineman. Chris Johnson, the San Diego State corner. Jacob Rodriguez, the linebacker from Texas Tech. Caleb Douglas, the receiver from Texas Tech. Will Kamarick, Ohio State tight end. Chris Bell, Louisville receiver. And then it was Trey Moore, linebacker, Texas. Kyle Lewis, linebacker, Pittsburgh. He may play safety. Michael Taffy, safety, Texas. Kevin Coleman Jr., receiver, Missouri. Sadeu Traore, tight end, Mississippi State. DJ Campbell, guard, Texas. As Max Llewellyn, an edge from Iowa. A lot of this is going to hinge on what happens with Caden Proctor. Austin Jackson is an impending free agent after the year. See if they want to play Proctor at right guard or right tackle. Love the Jacob Rodriguez pick. Love the Chris Bell pick. Love the Kyle Lewis pick. The thing that's going to hurt them is if Caleb Dance becomes a star. I don't mean star because he's just wearing a cowboy helmet. The Dolphins are going to be John Eric Sullivan might face a little bit of criticism because he had an opportunity. They decided to trade down, go Caden Proctor. Proctor needs to keep himself in shape and play like the player people believed in him before this past year. It's a nice draft for the Dolphins. They are clearly trying to change their identity from being a softer football team. They want to be more physical. Starts here. We'll see what happens. I'm going to give them a B plus. I thought they did a good job. Okay, the Vikings. They drafted Caleb Banks, defensive lineman out of Florida. Jake Goldie, linebacker Cincinnati. Dominique Orange, a defensive tackle from Iowa State. Caleb Tiernan, offensive tackle Northwestern. Jacoby Thomas, safety Miami. Max Bredesen, fullback Michigan. Charles Demings, corner from Stephen F. Austin. Desmond Claiborne, running back Wake Forest. And Gavin Gerhardt, the Cincinnati center. Okay, so there are two picks that save them in the middle here. Tiernan saves them because I think he's going to be a pretty good player. And Charles Demings has a really bright future. Caleb Banks bothers me, man. Thieneman was there. McNeil Warren was there. I thought that's where the Vikings would go, safety-wise. They chose not to. They chose to go beef up the interior. And maybe I understand it for the division. I think I would have went with the safety. They didn't draft a tight end, which I think was a little telling with TJ Hawkinson in the final year of his deal. I'm going to give the Vikings a C plus. There's just nothing that, I like the Demings pick and the Tiernan pick, but Banks feels like a little reachy to me. But he needs to stay healthy. He's had some issues. And then they trade Jonathan Grenard to Minnesota or to Philly. That's something else that I got to take into account. New England. Caleb Lomu, the Utah offensive lineman at 28. Gabe Jackas, the Illinois edge rusher. Eli Raritan, Notre Dame tight end. Karan Prunty, Wake Forest corner. Demetrius Crownover, offensive tackle A&M. Namdi Obizar, linebacker TCU. Baron Morton, the Texas Tech corner. Jam Miller, the running back Alabama. And Quintavious Hutchins, an edge from Boston College. I'm going to go with a B for the Patriots. B plus. They wanted to get better in the trenches where they were criminally exposed by the Seahawks. I know they signed Romeo Doubs. I wouldn't have minded seeing them draft a receiver in the mid to later rounds either. I wouldn't have not minded that. So I'm going to give them a B. The Saints. At 8, they draft Jordan Tyson. Second round, Christian Miller, the D tackle out of Georgia. Oscar Delp, the tight end out of Georgia. Jeremiah Wright, a guard out of Auburn. Bryce Lance, North Dakota State receiver. Lorenzo Stouch Jr., Ohio State safety. Barian Brown, kick returner LSU. And TJ Hall, corner, Iowa. I'm going to go big B plus here for the Saints. Tyson needs to stay healthy, but they bulked up with Christian Miller in the middle, and Lorenzo Styles, safety, might be able to give them some linebacker work too. I like what the Saints did. The New York Giants, 2 first-round picks. Arvell Reese, the edge out of Ohio State. Francis Mayuga, offensive tackle Miami. Then Colton Hood, corner out of Tennessee. Malachi Fields, the receiver out of Notre Dame. Bobby Jamison Travis, defensive tackle out of Auburn. J.C. Davis, a guard out of Illinois. And Jack Kelly, the linebacker from BYU. I'm giving the Giants an A. I love what the Giants did. I don't think people... I know there are people out there saying Arvell Reese over Downs, or I'm looking at it going, they never thought Arvell Reese was going to be there. They presumed the Jets or maybe even Tennessee does it. And they said, yeah, no, we'll take Arvell Reese. And now you have Arvell Reese, Abdul Carter, Brian Burns, and Kayvon Thibodeau at edge. Mayuga comes in. He's going to help protect Jackson Dart. Colton Hood was a first round grade for a lot of guys. Back half, they get him late. Malachi Fields is a really nice receiver, really complimenting Neighbors, Mooney, and Calvin Austin. So that's a good room right now. And then you get J.C. Davis up on the offensive line too. I really this team. John Harbaugh drafted what he wants his team to be: a more physical football team. Think about Baltimore with Harbaugh. They've always drafted big edge guys. It's a great job. I'm going to give the Giants an A. The Jets, David Bailey, the edge out of Texas Tech, followed by Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end from Oregon, Omar Cooper, the receiver from Indiana, then D'Angelo Ponce, the corner from Indiana, Daryl Jackson, the Florida State DT, Cade Klubnik, Clemson quarterback, and then Inez Cooper, the Miami guard, and then VJ Payne, a safety from Kansas State. Okay. This was such an A-plus draft until one thing. That was the trade up to Cade Klubnik. That's the one thing I just don't love. David Bailey. I said to Mark when we did the mock draft, I love him. He's the best pure edge rusher, and that's what they get. Then they doubled down to get Geno Smith and their future quarterback weapons with Kenyon Sadiq and Omar Cooper Jr. Now, we'll never know if Ty Simpson was on the board at 16 if they even thought about it because of what the Rams did. So I like that they got some weapons here because this offense can't just be Garrett Wilson. The passing game can't just be Garrett Wilson. It's been like that for too long. So I like what the Jets did. I'm going to give them an A. Philly, Mekhi Lemon, the receiver from SC, Eli Stowers, the tight end from Vanderbilt, Markel Bell, the tackle from Miami, Cole Payton, the North Dakota State QB, Micah Morris, a Georgia guard, Cole Wisniewski, Texas Tech safety, UR Bernard from the international program, and Keyshawn James Newby, an edge from New Mexico. Oh, and by the way, they added Jonathan Grenard from the Vikings. A for the Eagles. The Lemon and Stowers pick just confirm what we already know, and that is A.J. Brown is a future former Eagle. He's out. Stowers, Goddard signed a 1-year deal. So guess what? He's not in there for the long term. This was a really good draft by Howie Roseman. As per usual. Okay, Pittsburgh. Max Ian Anchor, the tackle from Arizona State, followed by Jeremy Bernard, Drew Aller, the quarterback from Penn State, Dalen Everett, the corner from Georgia, Jennings Dunker, the guard from Iowa, Caden Weegen from Iowa, Riley Nowakowski, the Indiana tight end, Gabe Rubio, the Notre Dame D end, Robert Spears Jennings, safety from Oklahoma, and Eli Heidenreich, the Navy back. No complaints. First draft under Mike McCarthy. They wind up not doing the Ty Simpson thing. Maybe they reached on he and Hanker. We'll see. But I like the Jeremy Bernard pick. Drew Aller versus Will Howard versus Mason Rudolph is a lot more intriguing than Will Howard versus Mason Rudolph. I really like the Dunker pick, and I really like the Dalen Everett pick. And Spears Jennings is another one. that might be the steal. I'm going to give the Steelers an A, and they needed to have one. They needed a good one. San Francisco, they didn't have first round picks. They went Dejon Stribling, receiver, Ole Miss, Romello Heighton, edge from Texas Tech, Kaleon Black, Indiana running back, Grace Halton, DT from Oklahoma, Carver Willis, guard, Washington, Ephesians Prysock, Washington corner, Jaden Duggar, a linebacker from Louisiana, and Enrique Cruz, a tackle from Kansas State. I, I thought there were better receivers on the board than Dejon Stribling. Who am I to question? Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. But I don't love this. I'm going to go with a B minus for the Niners. See what happens. Seattle. They weren't supposed to have this many picks, but they moved down a couple picks. They took Jadarian Price, the other running back from Notre Dame, Bud Clark, safety TCU, Julian Neal, the Arkansas corner, Bo Stevens, a guard from Iowa, Manuel Henderson, Kansas receiver, Andre Fuller, Toledo corner, Devin Eastern, Minnesota DT, and Michael Dansby, Arizona corner. If they can hit on these three, Clark, Neal, and Stevens, look out. Clark has a little bit of Camp Chancellor to him. Neal's a player, and Bo Stevens was really good at Iowa. Seattle just continues. They're going to be another physical football team. All right, the Bucks. This is my favorite draft because of the value. Ruben Bain at 15. Josiah Schroeder at 46. Ted Hurst at 84. Keontae Scott, 116. DeMonte Capehart at 155. The top four are outrageous. Ruben Bain at 15. You can't pass that up. I love this draft. Jason Licht did a phenomenal job. Trotter replaces Levante David. And to be honest with you, the rest is just maybe they hope Ted Hurst becomes Mike Evans 2.0, but this was just a phenomenal draft by the Bucks. They get an A+. Titans. Carnell Tate, the receiver from Ohio State. Keldrick Falk, edge from Auburn. Anthony Hill Jr., linebacker, Texas. Fernando Carmona, Arkansas guard. Nick Singleton, Penn State running back. Jackie Marshall, DT Baylor. Pat Coogan, center, Indiana. And Jaron Kanek, tight end, Oklahoma. I'm going to give the Titans a B+. Like the Tate pick. Love the Pat Coogan pick. Need to see more out of Keldrick Falk. If there's anyone who can get it, it's Robert Saleh. But I really like that pick. I'm going to go B+ for the Titans. Okay, Washington. They took Sonny Styles at 7 from Ohio State, the linebacker. Antonio Williams, the Clemson receiver. Josh Josephs, an edge from Tennessee. Katron Allen, Penn State running back. Matt Gulbin, the Michigan State center. And Athan Kalakamanis, the Rutgers quarterback. I would have liked to see a little bit more on the offensive line from Washington because we've got to protect the investment of Jaden Daniels. And unless they are 100% convinced they'll grab Brandon Ayuk when the Niners decide to release him or whatever, wouldn't have minded a receiver either. I'll give Washington a B. My 3 to 5 favorite drafts: Tampa Bay, Philadelphia, Baltimore. And then I guess I'll go with the 2 New York teams. I thought the Jets and Giants both did very well. Least favorites. I mean, I don't love what the Niners did, although I think Romello Height could be a stud. Um, Washington, I just told you I don't love. I'm just going through them again just to see if there's anything I don't. Pittsburgh was fine. Actually, you know what? Cleveland. I loved Cleveland too. Hard to leave them off. Um, New Orleans did fine. You know what? Minnesota. I didn't love Minnesota, and I didn't love Jacksonville. So Minnesota, San Francisco, Jacksonville, Washington. Those were the ones I don't love. Uh, yeah, so I love Cleveland, Baltimore, Tampa, Philly, both New York teams. Don't love Jacksonville, San Francisco, Minnesota, Washington. But it was fun. It's a fun draft. Now we go into mini camps. Then we're into training camps. Before you know, it's the preseason. And then we get the regular season back. And boy, we can't wait for it. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on the socials, Facebook, the Sports City Network, Twitter, Insanity Really. Follow me personally on Twitter, Punmaster, Rifkin, same name on Blue Sky. Check out the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening to the draft recap edition of the Wishbone Shotgun podcast. I am Mike Rifkin. Talk to you all again next time.